Good evening and welcome to your latest edition of the RO Sports Show. Always brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. I'm your host, Matt Harrelson. Alongside with me, as usual, Jeremy McKenzie, Deion Cranford on the other end. Of course, our other Ross regular, Russell Parker, will be joining us momentarily. Another Friday comes through, another big win for the Richmond Raiders on their way to what we hope will be another state championship here in a year that ends in 8. What else is there to talk about? I mean, they pretty much manhandled Lumberton the way that we thought they would. This game was over as soon as Lumberton got off the bus. But, Deion, let's start with you. This was the program's 600th all-time game, their 486th win overall.
Yep.
What impressed you the most Friday?
The selection of places to eat dinner, that was pretty nice. The
band was good.
Yeah, that was good. I'll say this: I was excited to see LaCyrus Eller be back. That was good. To
Yes.
have kind of those two running backs rotating. Jaheim Covington, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's still doing his thing. I mean, it was just a big night, and it was kind of what we all expected. I will say this: a little bit of a surprise, with Grice, Lumberton's quarterback exiting for the rest of the season, something to do with a disciplinary action at school. He wasn't there. We were kind of all expecting to see him at quarterback, but their little sophomore quarterback stepped in, and I thought actually did do a pretty good job under the circumstances. So, hats off to him. But the biggest thing is, and we've talked about it all season, field position.
Right.
18 of the game's 21 possessions between the two combined were all on Lumberton's side of the field. Richmond just dominated that aspect. Three of Richmond's 10 possessions started on their own territory, and then all of Lumberton's possessions started in their own territory. So you're not going to lose too many games.
Yeah, it's tough to overcome that for a team like Lumberton. Jeremy, let me bring it to you. So Raiders were able to put up 35 points in the first half. How were they able to jump out so big so quickly?
Just like Deion said, we pretty much dominated by the running the ball, which LaCyrus Ellerby came back, and I thought he did pretty well with him and Jaheim did the 1-2 punch combo. And Caleb Hood, who had another excellent game as usual. Even our receivers stepped up. Even our defense stepped up to the plate. They just took that game and showed no mercy to Lumberton.
So looking at the stats here, it was pretty right down the middle. They were pretty balanced on offense to Friday night. Looking here on the Richmond Observer, 159 yards from the backfield duo of Jaheim Covington and LaCyrus Ellerby, who you just mentioned. 158 passing yards from Caleb Hood, most of that from him. 7 yards from his backup, Noah Altman. But, Deion, you mentioned LaCyrus being back. What's been his crutch this year? Because, they were supposed to be this two-headed combo, and then it seems like Jaheim just kind of took over. Has injuries been a thing? Something in his head, perhaps?
I mean, I'm assuming an injury. He was taken out. I think it's been about 5 weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. It's been a while since he's been out there. But, yeah, he's been dealing with some sort of injury. And, like I said, it was just good to see him back on the field, and it was good to have that versatility. And I also want to mention CJ Tillman had a big night, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think he's got an opportunity to have another big night this week. But Tillman had the fumble return for a touchdown, and then Derek Behringer had an interception. So, it was they just pretty much dominated about everywhere you could.
Absolutely. And like you said, we'll get to the defense here in just a minute. But the last question, talking about offense, either one of you can jump in here. Jaheim Covington had another 3 rushing scores. He had 133 of those 59 yards. Zamir's gone to Georgia out of Scotland. Is Jaheim Covington now the best running back in the conference?
In the conference, probably, yeah. I'd say in the conference.
Okay, you hesitated. What about in the state of North Carolina then?
Probably not in the state. At least, I mean, I'm not going to say he's not in the conversation, but there's a lot of big names in the state and a lot of big in that big running back recruiting class. But I mean, he's definitely one of the best. I'll give him that. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, looking at the stats here, this was the first time since Richmond played Butler all the way back in September 7th that they didn't score on their opening drive. So what does it say about a team that it's a disappointment when they don't score on their first possession?
Well, again, you gotta play the head games in that one too. They knew they were going against a opponent that probably couldn't stand up to them, so they probably got a little complacent first. Probably didn't come out as clean as they could have, but and once again, hats off to Lumberton because I think Richmond's first play went for maybe about 6 yards, but then they just stuffed them after that. Yeah. So I mean, they didn't come into that game with the mentality that they were just going to walk in and give up. So, I'll give them a little bit of credit on that as well.
Sure. And then let's talk about the defense. So, 2 weeks ago, homecoming Hoke, 53-0. That was their third shutout of the season. This basically could have been another shutout game. I feel like if Richmond had kept the starters in the whole time. But talk about the defense, Jeremy, about how they're dominating, basically.
I think to me, it's like for the defense, they is playing all cylinders pretty much with C.J. Tillman coming back and Derek Bellinger had an interception in that game. I think this defense can dominate throughout the rest of the season and pretty much can send a message to the state. And
again, looking at stats, Richmond's only allowed 34 total points, or just under 6 points a game during this winning streak. And on Friday, the Pirates only got 111 yards of total offense, 88 of that passing, only 23 rushing. Dion, how were they able to stop them up front like that?
Well, I think they're having a lot of success stopping the run game, period. That's what they've done well in this streak, and that could be good and bad because we really haven't seen a very good passing offense since Wake Forest.
Yeah.
So, they really haven't had to do a lot against any really strong passing games. So I think the reason why they did so well against the rushing attack of Lumberton is because that's where their strength is, and they've been doing that week in and week out. If they can somehow make these teams one-dimensional and make them have to run the ball, then they're going to have no problems beating just about anybody.
And in the second half, Richmond was also flagged 8 times on the night with 65 yards. And we didn't get a chance to interview Till because that game was on the road, but I'm pretty sure that Brian was irate about them having those penalties there at the end of the game. Is that something that Richmond needs to? Obviously, it's something they need to work on, but is that something that they need to worry about, or is that just kind of part of the learning curve?
Honestly, and I know this is probably one of those things that's just in the head of a fan, but honestly, I think you see a lot more flags fly when a game gets out of hand just to try to keep it from getting worse out of hand. So the referees probably did go from more of a relaxed approach to more of a nitpicky approach, especially once that running clock started. So I'm not going to look too heavily into that. They probably were committing some of those penalties, but a lot of them were probably ticky-tack calls, especially there at the end. So.
I can see how that would happen. Now, usually Friday night means Friday night lights here. Of course, with the rain and the storms, that game was moved from tomorrow to tonight, which of course will be at 7:30 on the road at Fayetteville. They're facing the 71st Falcons, and it seems like right now it's us and it's the Falcons going for this SAC. Matter of fact, that's on the line tonight. What do you expect to see from this game?
I say that from this game where Richmond has to pretty much have to come out on top pretty much on offense, defense, and special teams. You got to cut out the penalties. I expect for Caleb Hood to have a great game with Jacoby Bowen, Dalton Strollman is going to come out, do what they have to do. I think the running game is going to be more balanced now with Lasarius Ellaby and Jaheim Covington. And I think the defense is going to stand out as usual. But to me personally, I think this is going to be a knockout blowout.
All right. Dion, what do you expect to see?
I think Richmond will probably run away with it too. I think 71st was probably the best team we've seen in a while, but they and the good news is we mentioned this before, it's probably the first passing team, like I said, we've seen since Wake Forest. But they're passing their quarterback Kyler Davis, he's averaging about 20 pass attempts per game, has 1,300 passing yards on the season, and it has 13 touchdowns, but almost all of that is going to his wide receiver, Kamari Williams. So, what's different between kind of the 71st and Richmond attack is, yes, they're more of a pass-first approach, but Hood's got all the targets he wants out there. I'm not saying that 71st doesn't have a couple of guys making catches, but, the majority of these passes. Matter of fact, Williams has 10 of the 13 reception passes. So, the majority of it is going to him, and as long as they can keep him as long as the defense can keep him under control and force 71st to basically, operate on a ground game, they'll run away with it.
Yeah, if Hood has done nothing else all year, he has at least spread it out.
Yeah.
And that's been evident every game so far. I do want to ask you one more question about the matchup with 71st. This is obviously going to be our toughest matchup, at least since our non-conference part of the schedule. Since we've basically just been running through and just whipping everybody in the SAC, could that potentially be a bit of a downfall where maybe Richmond comes in and has their head held up a little too much, perhaps?
I don't think so, especially after that game last year, where Malik Stanback had that touchdown in the final seconds to win it. I really think that 71st is going to come into this game wanting that win back. And so I think Richmond's going to have that mentality coming into this game that they've got to defend it. Yeah. And honestly, I think this would be a big one for Richmond to want to win for Stanback, while he's injured. And I think that would be a big motivation for them. But no, I think all the players, I think all the fans know that this is probably the conference title game tonight. I'm not trying to overlook Scotland, but let's face it, they're not where we thought they would be. No. So I don't see anybody, overlooking the Falcons and coming into this week. I think they're going to come into this with everything they got.
All right. So tonight, 7:30, Richmond coming in 7-1 overall, 4-0 in the Sand Hills Athletic Conference. 71st coming in with the exact same record, 7-1. The only two teams left in the conference that are undefeated. So before we go to break, prediction time.
This is going to be a scenario where Richmond going to come out on top on 71st. My final score, Richmond 28, 71st 14.
So you got it kind of close. Not real close, but closer than it's been. What about you, Dion?
I think I'm going to go with about a 42-14 score. I think it might be close after maybe the first quarter, but I don't think it's going to stay close long.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like because it's at 71st, it's in Fayetteville, perhaps just having home field advantage may keep it a little tighter there in the first quarter. But I'm with you. I think Richmond just has too many weapons. Caleb Hood, Baldwin, all these guys that are sophomores that play like seniors. I think all that's going to come in handy. And like we said, Hood has so many options on offense, even with Stanback out. I feel like even if Lasiris Ellerby doesn't have a good game, Jaheim's been playing so well lately that it's not going to make a bit of difference, although it obviously has more benefits to have two really good running backs than just one. So, also, the JV season's wrapping up soon. You expect to see a lot of guys come up from JV to join the squad?
Not yet. Well, at least not this week. You may have Coleman and a couple of other, key players step up, but this week with it being such a big game, I don't see the point. Especially since they've got a huge game themselves on Monday. Yeah. Probably maybe the Scotland week we usually start seeing some players filter up, and like I said, with that extra game against Purnell Sweat this year, the add-on at the end of the season, I imagine you'll see quite a few roll up into that one.
So nobody's predicting a shutout though.
No, I'm not.
No. I think this going to be 71st probably gonna fight for it, but I think it's not gonna be enough to beat Richmond.
All right. So you heard it, 7:30 tonight. That's going to be at 71st High School at 7:30 due to inclement weather tomorrow night. So of course, everybody here in Richmond County, anybody that's part of the Green and Gold needs to head up to Fayetteville to watch the Raiders and the Falcons play in what's probably going to be the SAC Conference Championship for this season. So anything else you guys want to add before we go to break?
Oh, yeah, your new conference champions, the Richmond Raiders.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good to me. All right, we're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to bump it up another level on the gridiron, head to the college level, and, of course, NFL after that. So much more when we come back to the RO Sports Show. Hayden Construction has two new homes under construction at two distinct locations, 125 Crystal Court in Carolina Hills and on Robberdale School Road. Both feature incredible floor plans and distinct features inside and out. Hayden Construction, quality, value, and beauty. Call Jamie Smart at 910-331-5811 or Nicole Hayden at 910-995-0717 today to schedule an appointment. Exit Realty, making dreams a reality.
At Richmond County Hospice, we strive to provide high-quality care to our patients and their families. Whether it's the incredible hospitality at the Haven House or from the comfort of your own home, you can count on Hospice to be there for you. We also offer monthly grief support groups, and our chaplain will be there to hold your hand in prayer. Through our amazing staff and our volunteers, Hospice has made difficult times easier for our community. Call the number on your screen if you feel that you or your loved one may benefit from our services. Richmond County Hospice. Peace, comfort, dignity.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. On the desk now, my clothing twin, Russell Parker. Yeah. Yes, God. They're different shirts technically, but they look very similar. So, but let's move on to our college football coverage. So let's just jump right into it and take a look at last week's picks for Week 8. Yeah.
Still in the lead, by the way.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You actually bumped your lead up to 3 over me. But I expect that to change this week, but we'll get to that here in just a second. So looking at the Week 8 picks, we started with the Battle of the Michigans. Michigan versus Michigan State. Of course, Michigan came in as the higher-ranked team. We all picked them. and they were able to get victory.
I think that was, kind of
A must-win situation.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for Harbaugh anyway.
Yeah, we've talked about it several times about how Harbaugh needs to get some of these wins to justify his really, really high salary. And I think this was another example. Back-to-back weeks, he's gotten a win over Wisconsin and now Michigan State. Of course, Ohio State still eluded him so far. Of course, that could change in the near future. But Michigan all the way up to number 5 right now in the newest top 25. So Michigan is back, perhaps. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to definitely see on that.
We'll see if they gain that victory on Saturday.
Yeah, the Big Ten is still very tough. It's tough to navigate. Moving on, a big what we thought would be a big ACC matchup. NC State coming in undefeated. Clemson coming in undefeated. 2 undefeated ACC teams, and at that point, 2 of the only a handful of teams in the entire country that were undefeated. NC State didn't put up a fight at all, even though you took them though.
I did, and
He tried it.
And I said that after that game, that I'm not going to take against Clemson anymore rest of the season. And, I think NC State they just didn't have it in them. I have to say now, I have to admit, Clemson is definitely championship contending this season.
And where did you have Miami at the start of the year?
Let's not talk about that.
Okay. And then of course you and I took the Tigers because we knew what was what. So moving on to Big Ten, or rather Pac-12 matchup, Colorado, Washington. Again, we all took the Huskies. We thought they were the better team. They kind of just proved that right. Colorado just 2 weeks ago was ranked 19th, completely fallen out. That's kind of one of those teams that we talk about all the time that gets into the top 25, has an opportunity to continue to move up, or you lose and then you're out and you're gone, and that's what we saw from Colorado.
Yeah, it's like a ghost that just appears and goes away, briefly.
And that happens every year. There's always teams that bump up in there. We're going to talk about some of those that have done that exact same thing this week as well later on. So moving on, SEC matchup, LSU, Mississippi State. We keep thinking that or at least I do, that Mississippi State's going to sneak up on one of these teams because they're a good squad. The Bulldogs, I think, are a sound team in the SEC. I think in any other conference they would do a lot better, obviously, than the SEC West. But LSU right now, just too dominant.
I mean, they are coming off that win against Georgia, and they're going to continue that momentum all the way through. They got about a week, I believe, this week, because they're going to face Alabama next week.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big matchup for sure. So having that win, building up some momentum for that big matchup down in Baton Rouge, I think it's going to be a heck of a game for sure. But, LSU is firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And LSU Alabama is going to be not this week but next week. So don't they love the fact that LSU right now is number 4? Because at this point it'd be number 1 versus number 4. That's almost a play-in playoff game, isn't it?
It pretty much is. The last time they've actually faced all 4 in a regular season as number 1 versus number 2 a couple of years back. That's the very day I became an Alabama fan, by the way. And Alabama lost, so you can't say I was because of the bandwagon.
All right.
I think that game is going to be built up a lot this coming in a couple weeks. I think both teams are going to definitely be training all week, despite being a bye week. It's probably fortunate if they get a bye week for this. So
I think that deserves a bye week.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that in the near future. And then finally, our last pick from last week, another Pac-12 matchup. Oregon coming into Washington State to take on the Cougars there. And we all picked Oregon, but it went the other way. Washington State, one of those teams that I was just talking about. They came in at number 25. They said, Mike Leach's squad probably said, all right, these guys, this is our opportunity to win this game, move up. Or if we don't, we're just as gone just as quick as we got here. They won. Now they're sitting at 14, knocking on the top 10. So, look, we've talked already about how the Pac-12 perhaps has already shot themselves in the foot as far as getting to the top 4. And it seems like every week it's somebody different. But right now, Washington State now represents the Pac-12's best team at 14. Washington right behind them at 15. Is Washington State the best team in the Pac-12, or do you think it's still the Huskies, even though they got 2 losses?
I still probably think it's the Huskies. I mean, it's going to be so difficult trying to figure that one out. But you got a couple more games in the Pac-12 that they can determine that. I think Washington State is probably still going to be the number 1 team here.
All right.
For me, the same. Huskies pretty much is on the roll right now, even though for the 2 losses.
And it seems like it's a little convoluted because right behind them, number 19, Oregon's there, and then, of course, Stanford as well. So quite a few teams. Actually, Utah also. So like 4 or 5 teams, but all 14 and lower. So.
And the majority of those teams we just mentioned are all in the North Division of the Pac-12. The South Division hasn't really done nothing this season.
No, they haven't. And then looking at our locked in real quick, I had Cincinnati, who came in ranked 20th, also undefeated, Not anymore because they lost to Temple, which blew me. I lost a point there. I don't even want to talk about that. You had Oklahoma over TCU. They were able to take care of business. And then, big surprise, you had Alabama over Tennessee. And, of course, that one was another one where they didn't. Of course, Tennessee did score quite a few points on Bama. I'm sure that was what Nick Saban put up on the bulletin board, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get a couple points here and there, but you know, Rocky Top. I think Alabama was actually more playing Rocky Top themselves, kind of throwing it in their face a bit.
And then finally, for our upsets this week, I had UNC over Syracuse. And no, Syracuse was able to beat the Tar Heels again. I hate to say that, obviously almost doesn't count because it doesn't. But UNC at least played competitively in this one, and they gave Syracuse a run for their money till the end. Jeremy, you had Indiana over Penn State. I'm not quite sure what the final score was of that one, but Indiana sometimes plays Penn State hard. And then Wake Forest and Florida State. Obviously, that one turned out for the Seminoles, but I keep noticing a lot of your upset picks seem to come from the ACC.
They do. I don't really see.
Do you think you got it figured out or something?
I don't really perceive the ACC overall as a strong conference in football. Obviously,
It's
they
not.
are. They're not.
You got Clemson and
Yeah, and Florida State was there at one point, but not anymore. So
yeah.
Clemson just carried them kind of almost like Alabama carrying the SEC a couple of years ago.
Yeah. All right, so that's last week. Let's forget all that because you're still leading and we're not, so we're going to scratch that out of our mind.
That's
Move
right.
on to week 9. And up first, we got that same Clemson team we're just talking about. They are heading down to Tallahassee to take on Florida State. Who you got?
I got Clemson. I think this gonna be another blowout. Trevor Lawrence gonna put up some big numbers. Defense gonna take care of business and beat Florida State.
All right.
Taking Fort. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to take Clemson on this one. I think I've learned my lesson out at this point not to go against the Tigers, so I'm going to go with them on this one.
I know I had said at the beginning of the year that NC State was going to beat Clemson last week, and that the reason for that was because of this week's game, which I thought at the time would have made the State game a trap game because at the beginning of the year I thought Florida State would have a bounce-back season, especially after last year. Doesn't seem to have happened, although Willie Taggart's offense has started to step up a little bit. Doesn't matter. Clemson's so dominant, especially on the defensive line. Clemson all the way in that one. Now, probably it's got to be the biggest game this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Number 9, Florida. Number 7, Georgia. In Athens, the world's largest cocktail party. Who you got, Florida or Georgia?
I'm going to go with the Bulldogs on this one. I think, Georgia, they've had that one loss, and they're not going to let that go away, and they're going to probably give it everything they got and then some against the Gators.
Yep.
I'm going for the Bulldogs, just like Russell said a little while ago, that for them to lose that game last week, I think this is going to be a redemption game, especially for Georgia. Need this win to get back into the playoff hunt.
I'm thinking that the SEC East is on the line this week, is it not?
I believe so.
With these two teams, I mean, they're both 6-1.
Of course, Kentucky, they're still going strong as well.
Yeah, I know that Kentucky's right there at number 12 in the nation. I just still have a hard time accepting that Kentucky is actually good at football, But still, they've built up the program there, and they got a really good running back. But I'm going to take the Bulldogs as well. I think this is going to be a really, really close, tough game. I know we've been hearing a lot. Jake Fromm, who is the starting quarterback, who is only a sophomore, took the job last year as a freshman from Jacob Eason when he got hurt. But Georgia also has another number 1 recruit running back that came in by the name of Justin Fields, who is really dynamic, one of the top players in the country. There's been talk that Fromm could potentially lose his job to this Justin Fields kid. And I'm sitting there thinking, my goodness, Georgia's been, they were just in the national championship. They've been in the top 4 all year long until this one loss. They're all the way back up to number 7. And you think your quarterback's not playing well? Like, there's 1,000 other schools that would love to have a Jake Fromm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you look at the situation where Alabama has done the same thing with their quarterback situation where they've put Tua in over Jalen Hurts. Clemson did the same thing with Trevor Lawrence taking Kelly Bryant's spot. I mean, teams are going to continue to do this. If their top guy isn't making the top plays, you're going to find somebody who can do that. And
I just think there's only a handful of programs that can actually do that.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the majority of them right there because, again, I can't imagine a school like take the Tar Heels, for instance. We would love to have either one of those quarterbacks, and I can't imagine saying, hey, you know what? Jalen Hurts, he lost like maybe one game his whole career. He was an All-American, but we were in a position where we almost lost a national championship. He's no good to us anymore. We'll just dump him for the next guy. And they have the ability to do that. I know it's not exactly how it went down, but Not many teams in the country. There's only like maybe 3 or 4 teams that can actually get away with that. And
Speaking of Toreros, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Kelly Bryant looking into playing there?
that
for
was
UNC?
one of 6
Yeah.
teams that he visited.
Yeah, I remember he did that.
Was to go up to Chapel Hill. And as soon as I found out he was transferring, I even said, I was like, dude, we got an open invitation. Like, if somebody will give up a jersey for you right now if you can play this year. Of course,
Yeah.
you'd have to sit out. But,
Yeah.
he's a great athlete. I mean, I think he'd do well at
Yeah.
Chapel Hill. Moving on. So, coming up next is number 18, Iowa, heading to Penn State, who's all the way down to number 17. And I think at this point, Penn State's probably out of the playoff
Hunt.
hunt here. But,
Especially get a bowl game in, more likely.
yeah. So, who you got? Hawkeyes or Nittany Lions?
I'm going to go with Iowa on this one. I think Penn State's kind of slipping out at this point. They had a good, strong head start, and now they're just running out of gas at this point.
I'm going with Iowa for this one.
Well, I'm gonna take the other side here, just to spite you guys, because we need to mix it up here. So I'm gonna take Penn State. Iowa has a really good defense. This is at Penn State. Of course, Ohio State was also able to come in there and beat them only by 1 point. Of course, we saw what happened to Ohio State this week. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But Penn State still has a really good quarterback. I know, look, it's tough to replace somebody like Saquon Barkley at running back or any
Yeah.
position, but I can't remember the name's kid, but they have a really good running back who a couple times has either hit or gotten close to 200 yards in a single game. I think Penn State has the ability to run on Iowa. And look, Penn State right now is kind of reeling, and I think this is a chance for them to come back and make a bounce-back statement. And that's what I expect for us to see on Saturday. That game is at 3:30 p.m. Up next, going to the West Coast, Washington State, who, as I mentioned, is all the way up to number 14 now. Stanford, Stanford coming in at 24. So Stanford now back in the top 25 after a couple of losses. Who you guys taking?
I got with Washington State. I think this is a team where they got something to prove, and I think this is going to be where they get a win against Stanford.
I don't think Old Crimson's going to fly this game here. I think it's going to be Stanford on this one.
I'm taking Stanford too. I got the Cardinal. 2 words: Bryce Love. We haven't heard much from him this year. He started the year as the Heisman candidate, the number 1 candidate. Of course, that's all changed, but the kid's still really good. By the way, did y'all know that he's from North Carolina?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and somehow he ends up on the West Coast in Stanford. I don't know how that works, but I see Stanford getting off the schneid here and picking up their 6th win. And then finally, SEC matchup: Texas A&M, number 16 overall, heading to Mississippi State. Who you got?
I got Texas A&M.
All right.
Texas A&M on this one.
Again, I'm going the other way. I got the Bulldogs. I actually watched some of Mississippi State's game this past weekend. Nick Fitzgerald is a stud, man. I didn't realize he had currently has the most rushing yards by a quarterback in SEC history.
Wow.
And you're talking about guys at his own school like Dak Prescott, guys in the conference like Cam Newton and Tim Tebow. I mean, those are big names, especially at the college level, and this guy has outdone all of them. That's what I was talking about earlier. Mississippi State, I don't know if it's the rest of the team doesn't have as much talent or what it is, but you've got a quarterback in place. They need to be taking advantage of it. So, locked in. I'm taking number 25, App State, believe it or not, in the top 25. Now, I've got them beating up Georgia Southern this weekend. I don't think I'm going to get much resistance there. Of course, I said the same thing about Cincinnati last week. Jeremy, you're taking number 6, Texas, over Oklahoma State. Of course, I would imagine that was probably going to be a shootout like every other game in the Big 12 is. And then, Russell, you got West Virginia over Baylor. So
Yeah.
I think we're all in good shape on those. Of course, you never know. On the other
Especially
flip of the
somebody
coin.
would have had Ohio State last week.
Yeah, that would have been big. I'd have put money on that. On the flip of the coin, some that we haven't really hit on at all are our upset alerts. Russell, I'm going to start with you. Who you got this week?
I've got Arizona over Oregon. I think that being a Pac-12 game, I think it's a pretty important game there for Oregon. If they don't win this game, they're going to be looking on the outside for sure in the Pac-12 championship. I think Arizona can potentially do that.
Yeah, and they got a quarterback, again, Khalil Tate, that could very well do that. Jeremy, who you got for your upset this week?
I got Syracuse Orange getting a big win over North Carolina State.
All right. And mine's a bit of a doozy. I've got Navy beating number 3 Notre Dame this week.
It can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely could happen. I don't know why. I guess maybe it's that crazy triple option that you never really see outside of Navy and then Georgia Tech. But the Notre Dame Fighting Irish always seem to have some trouble when it comes to Navy. It's always a close game, whether it's at Navy or it's in South Bend. It doesn't seem to matter. I don't know. For some reason, I just...
You just got the itch.
All the
Yeah.
good stuff I've said about Notre Dame so far this year, by the way, they have number 1 strength of schedule. Just throwing that out there, that little debate you and I had about who they played versus Bama's
Yeah.
but I just feel like, again, I feel like Notre Dame's just kind of ripe for the picking right now. And after we just saw what happened with Ohio State, look, it's going to be tough for anybody to finish the year undefeated unless you're Central Florida. I'm going to talk about them here in just a minute, too. But so I expect everybody to get at least one loss this season, and it's going to shake out. And right here, I see Notre Dame's loss coming to Navy. So, all right, guys, so that's our picks for this week. Now let's get our big man on campus. Who impressed you this week stat-wise?
I got my big man on campus is the quarterback from the Ohio State, Dwayne Haskins. He had a big game against Purdue on last Saturday, had 10 for 20, 470 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but they lost.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you bring
Doesn't matter,
up
but
you bring up UCF. I'm going to talk about a team that could potentially beat them. That is South Florida. Their guy, Johnny Four, has 7 carries, 3 touchdowns, 164 yards. That's my big man on campus.
So I'm going to see your Dwayne Haskins, and I'm going to raise you with somebody from the winning team. I've got freshman wide receiver Rondale Moore from Purdue, had 12 receptions. I got to take a deep breath for this. 12 receptions, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, 58 return yards, and 24 rushing yards in that butt whooping of the Buckeyes. And that's what it was. 49-20 is a butt whooping.
Yeah, it really is.
So that is our big men on campus. So we just got a couple of quick minutes here, guys. So before we go back to break, who's in your top 4 if the season ended right now?
I got Alabama, LSU, Clemson, and I'm going to loop, and I'm going to say Texas.
Okay.
I'm going to say Alabama, Clemson. I'm going to throw in Michigan and Notre Dame.
All right. Yeah, those are all up there. I think we all can agree on Alabama number 1. I've got Clemson 2. I've got Notre Dame 3 as we currently sit. Of course, if my upset's right, then all that'll change. And I've got LSU 4. So even I've got 2 SEC teams in the top 4. I've got 2 on the outside. I've got Michigan at 5. And once again, I've got UCF sitting at 6. And I know people would be like, well, where's Georgia? Where are some of these other teams that are sitting there? Look, UCF, I complained about this last week. I'm going to complain about it again this week. They were, for 3 weeks now, they've sat at number 10 and haven't moved forward. It's like they climbed and they climbed and they climbed. They got to number 10, and it was like the voters were like, all right.
It's like a glass ceiling.
Yeah, they're like, all right, that's enough. You don't get to go any further, even though all they've done is win. You look at who's undefeated in the country. Alabama, number 1. Clemson, number 2. Notre Dame, number 3. Then you got to go all the way down to UCF, 7-0 at number 10. And then after that, you have to go all the way down to 21st, who is South Florida, another AAC conference or AAC team, 7-0. I don't understand. Look, I get it. There's Power 5 and there's Group of 6. But the AAC is basically made up of Big East teams. Remember the Big East? There was a time when the Big East was considered a power conference.
It was.
So what happened during that process to where now they're not as good as the Power 5 teams?
Yeah.
And I get it. The teams in your conference aren't as good as the teams in the SEC all the way around.
But if you look at it, UCF and USF are kind of building up that conference to become maybe one day a Power 6 again.
Exactly. And again, you wonder why coaches like Scott Frost leave and go to a team like Nebraska, who's only won 1 game this year. They do that because they know ultimately at a school like this, they have no shot at getting a national championship. And to me, that's just not fair. Now, look, just the fact that I have them on my top 6 doesn't mean squat. Obviously, the voting committee doesn't care, but the vote comes out for the first time for the CFP next week. Now, UCF has no shot, in my opinion, already. You agree?
They might be number 7 or something like that.
I don't even think they get that. I think they get 10, just like
they'll be in the top 10, probably 9 or 10 at the most.
But still, to me, that's kind of a travesty. The fact that we've had 2 weeks now. This week, Florida bumped them. Ohio State lost to a unranked Purdue team and only fell 1 spot behind UCF. So,
well, I think that's going to be in the segment.
That scared me a little bit. I thought the fire alarm was going off. So that's the buzzer, which means it's time to go to break. And we'll come back with some NFL action, plus NASCAR and so much more with the RO Sports Show.
At Kyocera, we see your company differently. We see your documents, how they're accessed, what it takes to keep them secure, and how well your workflow is flowing.
Kyocera helps your entire document infrastructure run more efficiently, securely, and cost-effectively.
And what we see is an opportunity to integrate all of it.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, as always, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. And let's bump up to another level on the gridiron and talk about the NFL. So, after that butt whooping that the Redskins put on the Panthers last week, I just had to throw that out there. Both teams got a win this past week. So, let's start with the Panthers. So, you guys were able to bounce back and get a win over the Eagles, who seemed to be reeling after winning that Super Bowl last year. But it took you guys a 21-point comeback, or 21 unanswered points, rather, to make the comeback. So, first of all, how did you guys get down so much to begin with?
I think for the simple fact reason we wasn't clicking on offense at all, and the running game was just pretty much dead at the moment. And I think Kellen was getting a lot of frustrating because a lot of the receivers weren't making plays like they should. And I think a lot of penalties had to play a part in it. And the defense, like Dave, was just pretty much lost, wherever the case may be, trying to figure out their identity, try how to stop Carson Wentz, what not have you. But I don't know what happened in that second half. I don't know what Ron Rivera said, that sermon he must have give Sunday after Sunday on halftime. They came out clicking. I mean, this is where we can say Cam Newton had one of his best games since he started.
And that is what you want to see from your franchise quarterback, isn't it? Even though you get down, you never give up, and you're able to make a comeback like that. And with 1:22 left, he tossed a 1-yard touchdown pass to Greg Olsen. And I've talked about it all year about how important Olsen has been when he's healthy, because he provides Newton with a kind of a security blanket.
Yeah, even for first downs, even for being that red zone threat for us. And I think even when Greg Olsen was hurt, the few games, even a little bit last year, I think that hurt Cam Newton as a whole, because he didn't have his true weapon. Even though he had weapons around him, but always had a security blanket to come in and provide you those numbers for what you need. But for me, and this is another thing I had a problem with on this call, which I thought was an interception at the end of the moments. Ed Reed, when he dived for that catch, they said it was an incomplete pass. I looked at it from the instant replay. It was an interception.
Yeah, and when it comes to making calls via replay, I'd rather try not to make predictions, because who knows what's a catch in the NFL, whether it's offense or defense.
Yeah.
But something we talked about last week when it pertained to the Redskins-Panthers game, that week Cam Newton led your team in rushing. We talked about how they can't keep that up. Well, guess what? Same thing happened this week. He led as a matter of fact, he led the game for both teams, but led the Panthers with 7 carries and 49 yards. Look, Cam Newton's he's not old, but he's no spring chicken. In the NFL, even as big as he is, he cannot continue to keep running and being the leading rusher, can he?
No, and I keep saying this for over the course of time, even since he came in the league with Coach Rob Jasinski, Norv Turner, Mike Shula. If we bring in if we get from D'Angelo Williams to Jonathan Stewart to Christian McCaffrey to C.J. Anderson, why are we bringing him backs for? If he continues to want to run and even though he makes plays and makes touchdowns for us, but at the same time, you paying a lot of these guys in the past, and currently we have now a lot of money just to pretty much to run the ball. But it seemed to me like Christian McCaffrey, ever since he had that big game against Cincinnati, he's not been a non-factor. And then it really, C.J. Anderson, you bring him for a 1-year deal, pay him a lot of money, and he's not been a really non-factor. And then, it seemed to me like, I remember Norv Turner was telling when he first came on the scene, he's not going to take away from Cam's game, but at the same time, I remember a scenario when you was in San Diego, and you pretty much was running LT to death.
Yeah.
And go.
So, I know that Cam can get you rushing yards that you need, but
it's gonna come a time where in the next couple of years you're gonna have to learn.
He's gonna have to learn
to stop,
to
adapt,
to pass first, run second, instead of his first instinct when the pocket breaks down is to take off. Now again, yes, he can do that. He can do that better than 99% of the 99% of the quarterbacks in the league. But again, even as good as he is running the ball, most quarterbacks that run don't last very long in the NFL, because everybody's just as fast as you are. They're big. And a lot of times, because you're the quarterback, once you start running, it's open season. You can get hit just like anybody else. And some defenders, they relish in that, and they try to hit you as hard as they can. Yeah. And that's why we see a lot of guys get hurt permanently. So
that's especially when the day with Donovan McNabb and Steve McNair and all, and those guys were, and Cordell Stewart.
Yeah, but they learned. I feel like those kind of guys learn to
stay in the pocket.
Yeah, to stay in the pocket, or if the pocket broke down, to check down, or if nothing else, just run out of bounds.
Yeah,
not run right into the teeth of the defense.
Yeah.
So he'll learn, though, I would think.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Redskins also picked up a victory this week. By the way, the Panthers now 4-2 overall.
Yes.
So are the Redskins because we were lucky enough, not lucky enough, but good enough to beat those daggone Cowboys in what was a huge matchup. Of course, this is one of the bigger rivalries in all of football. So the Redskins got a victory 20-17. Prescott had a pretty good game. He threw for 273 yards, had a touchdown. My man Adrian Peterson, though, keeps turning back the clocks of time. Had 99 yards on 24 carries. I mean, what can you say about him?
I think he should be the leading candidate for NFL Comeback of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I mean, when we brought him on, at first I thought, all right, this is exactly what the Redskins do. We bring in these over the hill guys that they're past their prime. For some reason, Dan Snyder, our owner, just loves this sort of thing, and I thought it was just another, person in that long line.
Just give him a job and just see how well he do.
Yeah, Albert Hainsworth comes to mind for some reason.
Even D'Angelo Hall and
Yeah.
linebackers like London Fletcher.
It goes all the way back to Bruce Smith back in the late '90s. After he was done with the Bills. So but I take it all back because right now Peterson's been killing it for us, and I wouldn't say he's one of the best running backs in the league necessarily,
but in our era, pretty much.
He's definitely serviceable. So, but this makes the Redskins also 4-2. They are now, since you guys beat the Eagles and we beat the Cowboys, they're both 3-4. Of course, the poor Giants are just terrible. They've only won one game this year. So right now, the Redskins have a 2-game lead in the NFC East. So,
I just want to say even I want to make a sense with the trade when y'all traded with Kirk Cousins for Alex Smith. We thought this moment was like we never know what we're gonna get out of Alex Smith or Kirk Cousins, but I'm just gonna pretty much just say right now, Alex Smith and Kirk Cousins, those trades were both they both winners. Minnesota's and Washington big winners for them at this moment.
They are, yeah.
And at the same time. Only thing I can see if Alex Smith if Washington get themselves a number one receiver down there, in which he can get a security blanket, I think he'll pretty much the offense can click real well. I see, like I said, AP need to be leading candidate for if the season ends right now and the XP started, then he should be comeback player of the year.
And you talk about the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, they're 4-2-1. They've got a tie on theirs. But, look, Kirk Cousins is probably going to get you more yards, perhaps more touchdowns. Of course, he's got a number one in Adam Thielen up in Minnesota.
And Stephon Diggs.
And Diggs, yeah. But right now, the Redskins and the Vikings, same record. So, as Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says you are. And before we get to our game of the week from last week, let me talk about the Cowboys here for a second. Because we talked about, since Dez left, about how they needed a number one. Even Jerry Jones has said, we haven't really had a number one since Michael Irvin was there. Now, perhaps they finally get one. They trade for Amari Cooper.
For their first-round draft pick for next year's draft. I can see a scenario where Dak Prescott going to pretty much have to coordinate with Amari Cooper to get him the yards that he may need. And I think this is going to be a scenario where it takes a lot of pressure off the receivers, the current ones they have now.
Takes pressure off of Zeke, too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Because, I think that's the reason why Dallas has been having trouble offensively this season.
I absolutely think so. But the Cowboys, I don't want them to get better, but I think this will make them better. Cooper's been down the last couple of years, but his first 2 years in the league had 1,000 yards receiving.
Couple of years, yes.
Yeah, so I think that might be, maybe he just needed to change his scenery because in Oakland, they're just tearing it down, aren't they? They trade Khalil Mack, they trade Cooper. I mean, is Derek Carr next? You let your quarterback go?
Yeah, and players are questioning those trades now for John Gruden, especially you've been out of the league for 10 years coaching-wise, and you coming in, and they now like, what's going on, man?
Yeah, absolutely. And then our game of the week from this past week, we had the Saints versus the Ravens. The Saints came in at 4-1 overall. The Ravens came in at 4-2. And we talked about how it was the number one offense versus basically the number one defense. And we were curious who would be the victor. The Saints end up winning 24-23. Joe Flacco, looking at the stats here, he actually outdid Drew Brees as far as yards, which surprises me. But at the end of the day, the Saints able to get the victory. So the Saints are a team you guys are going to have to worry about.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, so what do you think about the Saints?
I think for us, for the Panthers, which last year we got whooped by the Saints twice. Last season even lost to them in the wild card. I think there's going to be a scenario where there's going to be redemption for the Panthers. Because I look at now, they're going to have to start, Cam going to have to start beating Drew Brees at their own game. I think there's going to be a lot of guys going to be stepping up, which I see DJ Moore may step up. Curry Simmons coming on to his own. But I said by healthy Greg Olsen now back in the fold, I think the offense going to click.
Yeah, that could be the difference maker. Talking about that Baltimore team, though, they are actually heading to Charlotte next week, and you guys are going to be taking on that number 1 defense. So what do you think is going to happen there?
I think there's going to be a scenario. Also, I'm looking for this for Carolina's. By them got that big one over Philly on Sunday. I think this is going to be some momentum coming in. I think, for one, this where Carolina got to play their best ball, run first, and play good defense. And you got to shut down Joe Flacco. Far as Julius Peppers, Mario Addison, Damari Poe, and K'Wan Short, I think those even with Luke, TD, and Shaq Thompson, they're going to have to do what they need to do to create turnovers. For our secondary is doing pretty much exceptionally well so far. But I think if we can just shut down Joe Flacco, I think we pretty much got it.
All right. And then the Washington Redskins are heading to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Giants. Now, usually I would be like, all right, like the Skins are playing really well right now. We should have no problem with the Giants. But for some reason, the Skins always seem to blow games like this. I don't know why, even though I think the Giants are like 1-5 overall. I could very easily see a scenario where Saquon Barkley just goes wild and we end up losing by a field goal or something. But besides that, I expect Washington to keep doing exactly what they've been doing. I expect the defense to keep playing well. Ryan Kerrigan, dynamic defensive end, has been killing
and
it.
Josh Norman and all.
Josh Norman in the defensive backfield doing his thing, stripping sacks or getting sacks, stripping the ball for fumbles. And then I expect Alex Smith to just keep game managing and not turn over the ball. And most times if you're a quarterback like him, he's been successful because he doesn't turn it over. He usually has a good running game, which we do right now, and he's got a solid defense. And you can win Super Bowls doing that. Now, am I saying the Redskins are going to win the Super Bowl? Not necessarily.
Don't get my head blown up like that.
Not necessarily, but it very well could happen. So, and then let's see. I know what we're taking. For our game of the week, 4:25 this Sunday, Green Bay Packers head to L.A. to take on the Rams. Who you taking?
I'm going with the Rams.
Even though they got Aaron Rodgers, you think he's not going to be able to shred up that defense?
No, because Aaron Donald, 3 sacks last Sunday, and they just predominated. Him and Dominic, no. I don't. I think it's going to be a scenario for the Rams defense. This Rams defense is going to give the offensive line of Green Bay Packers a headache.
I think the difference will be, I think, no offense to LA's defense, because they're really good, obviously. The Rams are 7-0, but Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I think even he can carve up this defense. I think the difference is going to be the fact that Green Bay on defense can't stop anybody, much less Jared Goff and their high-powered offense. I think that's going to be the difference in this game. I think the Rams, with you, I think they end up getting the victory, especially because it's in their home stadium. But I think that Green Bay's defense is maybe average, maybe above average, but mostly just average, and that's going to be the difference in that game. Yeah. One other quick question before we go back to break. Patrick Peterson came out this week talking about teams that are terrible. That would be the Arizona Cardinals, who've only won 1 game this year, and that I don't even know that they should have done that. But Patrick Peterson, really good player on defense, especially a ball hawk. Teams that have 7-8 interceptions every year. That's not the case, but it seems that way. He came out earlier this week and said that he wants to be traded, and then you told me that he actually came back and said, no, I'm committed to the team. So which one do you think is it?
Well, the trade deadline is October the 30th. People say one thing and say another. I think it's going to be a scenario where a team's going to sneak up out of nowhere and going to give Patrick Peterson a good deal where he's going to be like, okay, adios, Arizona, I'm gone.
Yeah, but he'd have to be traded for right now, which means it wouldn't be up to him. It'd be up to if the team gets a package that they deem worth, giving up one of, if not their best player on the team. Now, obviously, it would have to blow their socks off. But I would imagine if a team rolled up and said, we'll give you a couple of first-round draft picks or maybe a first and a third or something like that, they'd probably pull the trigger, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think, because, there was a few teams wanted the service of Patrick Peterson, like the Saints, and I could see like Oakland, pretty much.
Oh, there'd be a ton of teams that would want
and the Chiefs. Even the Chiefs is a top in the front run. Even they getting in the front run for Earl Thomas right now.
Yeah. So if Peterson's out there, the thing I don't like is though, look, dude, the rabbit's out of the hat. You can't put a tweet or whatever he did out and say I want to be traded, and then 3 days later say, "Nah, not really. I'm committed to the team." Like, no, you're not. I don't believe you for a second. If you're committed to the team, then you wouldn't have come out and said you want to be traded. And look, I personally don't have a problem with this guy saying he wants to be traded. I get it. You're frustrated. He's been in the league now for what, 6 or 7 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
He really wants to win.
he wants to win. He wants to win a ring, and a football life is not a long one, career-wise. So I get that part of it. But just go one way or the other. Say, look, I don't want to be here if we're not going to be winning. If we're not going to be putting forth the effort to win, trade me, and then that be it. Don't be wishy-washy. That's my whole thing. I hate when players do that. Like, look, do I like what Le'Veon Bell's doing by sitting out?
No.
Not necessarily, but I can respect it because, especially as a running back, you want to get your money, you want to get paid for what you're doing before you're not able to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Especially at the running back position. So at least I can understand where that's coming from. But being wishy-washy on it, I don't know. But I say all that to say this. If you want to come to Washington, Peterson, come on over. That'll give us 2 Petersons on the team. So one on offense, one on defense.
Yeah, but then there's gonna be a great tandem with Patrick Peterson and Josh Norman.
Yeah, I think that might be the best tandem as far as cornerbacks are concerned.
Yeah, because y'all have a better one than the Patriots and the Saints.
Yeah. So, all right, that's going to do it for NFL. We're going to take another commercial break. We'll come back. Russell's going to hop back on the desk, look at some NASCAR. That and more will come back to the RO Sports Show.
McNair Auto Sales is the place to buy your pre-owned car, truck, or van. To be the best, it takes big selection, friendly staff, and great pricing. We guarantee a no-hassle buying experience, and financing is available right on site. So come see us today. We're located at 1026 East Broad Avenue in Rockingham. And remember, with over 40 years of experience, you know McNair is the name you can trust.
Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts is all about rustic home decor and gifts. You will always find a variety of unique antiques, vintage, and new items in our shop. Come and see our selection of housewarming, new baby, and wedding gifts. For the man in your life, we have many collectibles, Boker knives, and leather. And ladies love the jewelry, purses, candles, hats, and t-shirts. We also offer a 30-day layaway program. Come and experience shopping at Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts.
Welcome back. It's the RO Sports Show, of course, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Russell here back on the desk. Let's talk some NASCAR.
Yeah,
So
let's
the
talk
big
about
boys were in Kansas this past weekend. What happened?
Yeah, well, no tornado came through and took Dorothy away, but it took away 4 players from the championship 4, and now we're going into the round of 8. But first of all, Chase Elliott, once again getting his 3rd victory of the season, 3rd victory of his Cup Series career. He actually did not dominate the race. He kind of moved himself up. He stayed up there in the top 10 throughout the rest of the race and got the job done. A lot of other drivers that were playoff contenders who needed the win were also running up really high too. There's a lot of the playoff drivers being up really, really high in the top 10 all day long. It was a really big battle for everybody. But in the end, there was 4 drivers who got eliminated. One of them missed it by just, I believe, 6 points, and that was Ryan Blaney. So, overall, it was a pretty insane day for a lot of these guys.
I'm trying to remember. Who did we take? I can't remember who else we picked.
I don't remember.
Obviously, it doesn't matter.
I don't think nobody had Chase Elliott. I actually predicted on my own was Truex, I believe.
Yeah, and I took Keselowski, I believe.
Yeah, Truex didn't do too well on it. Keselowski actually got eliminated from the playoffs. So
sorry, Brad. That's what. All right, so who needs to get eliminated? That's who I'm taking this week. No. All right, so I don't have the top 10 here, but so where are we sitting now as far as the playoffs and who's left and who's moving on?
So after the round of 12, the 4 that got eliminated was Ryan Blaney, who again missed it by 6 points. He started off the day with 22 points behind the cutoff line, so he made up a whole lot. Just wasn't enough to get it all done. Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson also got eliminated. Alex Bowman, I think Bowman and Larson were kind of the obvious ones to get out. Kind of came down between Keselowski, Blaney, and a few other guys as well. So, but as we're looking right now, we have 8 drivers left in it. We've got Almirola starting at the bottom with 12 under the cutoff line. And then the next 3 drivers are 3 under the cutoff line, which is Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, and Clinton Boyer. Just above that is 4th place Chase Elliott, who was sitting 3 points above the cut line. And then as you get into the big 3, once here is Truex at 23 over, Harvick 39 over, and Kyle Busch 40 over.
So I know last week we were talking about how Truex was potentially on the verge of getting knocked out. Seems like he's done himself some good.
Yeah, fortunately, all the wins for him that he's won this season is able to keep him at 23 points above. If he had not won all those races, he probably would have been out after this round. He was actually in the battle between the guys, like you just said. It could have been eliminated. If we had a new winner of that race, he would have been eliminated. But yeah, Harvick and Kyle Busch, Truex, they look like they're sitting pretty right now.
Okay. So who's not sitting pretty right now?
I would say the worst one right now is Eric Almirola, but he has enough points that can actually make it up still. I mean, he's only 12 points away from getting over into 4th position. There's only 4 drivers going to make it after the next 3 races, and out of those 4 will have an equal opportunity to win the championship at Homestead. But as it's looking, I think you could probably say Kyle Busch is going to be safe no matter what happens, unless he has 3 really bad weeks. But Eric Almirola might be the worst one here. I really can't see anybody else not having a solid effort here.
Okay, so you're talking about the next 3 races before we get to Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, where are those going to be, and who do you think is going to take home the checkered flag?
So I'm going to make a prediction on all 3, pretty much the entire round of 8 here. The next 3 races are Martinsville. That is a half a mile racetrack. Texas, 1.5 mile track, and ISM, formerly known as Phoenix International Raceway. Mile track. They actually moved the back. They moved the finish line to the backstretch now, so it's a new challenge for this race. But I'm gonna pick Martinsville. Chase Elliott going to win this one here. So back-to-back wins. He's shown a lot of potential at this track before, and I think he can do it again. Texas, I've got Joe Logano. He's won there in the past. I think that he's probably going to run really well now that both Keselowski and Blaney are out. Penske's going to focus a lot more attention to that 22 team to get them a win and get them into the next round to potentially win a championship. And not only that, but the Penske drivers are doing really well overall the past couple of races. So I think that it's about time for Logano to get him another win this season. And ISM, I think it's a no-brainer that Harvick wins this one. He is the king of this track. He wins it every season. I think even with the change at the finish line, I think he's still going to win it.
So you're talking about the teams there for a second. I want to ask you something, because even over these next 3 races, it's not just the ones involved in the playoffs that are racing, right? It's still a field,
all 40
right?
drivers are still out there.
So what's there to be said about some of these teams working together as a team to maybe get someone that's not on their team out of the playoff? Is that something that you see?
Well, there's been times where we've had payback on drivers, and they'll get them back. And usually Martinsville is one of those tracks. So we could see, if you might remember, about a couple months ago, Kevin Harvick dumped Kyle Busch to win the race at New Hampshire. And Kyle Busch had kind of said, no, payback can always come. This is a track that we could see that at. And these two are 1 and 2 in the playoffs, so they might try to take each other out because they see each other as threats to the championship.
Sure.
So you could definitely see some dirty racing at Martinsville, and you can kind of get away with it a little bit more at Martinsville since it's a short track, a more forgiving racetrack itself, not high speeds. So that could very well happen.
And then finally, I'm assuming that you've already done all of this math. So judging by the guys that you have winning at Martinsville, Texas, and Phoenix, who would be eliminated? Who'd be moving on?
So I have a 3. Now, if you win a race in the playoffs, you advance to the next round.
Automatically.
No matter if you're 45 points down at the very, very bottom, you win that in that round, you go to the next one. So I've got Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Kevin Harvick. Those are already going to move on. That means that Kyle Busch or Truex could be knocked out of this, per what I'm going with. And out of those 2 drivers, who's going to make it in on points, that's going to be Kyle Busch. I just think he has the better team overall against Truex here. Nothing against Truex, but I just don't know if he can make it up. Mm-hmm. Texas might be his best track to do something at, but I don't know if he's going to do it anywhere else. His team's kind of slipping as we go along through the playoffs a little bit here. So I've also got Clint Boyer and Kurt Busch and Eric Almirola on the outside. I just don't know if those guys can really get it done in the next 3 races.
All right, so playoffs coming up, and I know it's kind of hard to look that far ahead, but Homestead, that's going to be the final race of the season.
That's the final race, and the best finish out of those 4 drivers that are left is going to be crowned the champion.
Okay, so
no points. It's just whoever finishes ahead of the others.
That's how that scenario works. And again, I would imagine if I'm
However, I will say this: out of every single championship since we've had this format, has won the race.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So winning Homestead's like almost
usually the key to the victory, per se.
All right. So do you want to take a stab at that, even though that's a few weeks out?
I still like I still like Kyle Busch's chances of winning this. He's won in that Homestead before. He's won a championship at Homestead. I think I'm going to like his chances at this. I still want to see how the rest of the next 3 races go out before I actually make a prediction. But I did get it right last year. I got 2 out of 3 NASCAR Series champions corrected. So we'll see if I can do that again this season.
All right. You heard it here first. Everybody's already decided. Russell's already got it in his crystal ball. So that's going to do it for NASCAR coverage. Of course, we'll come back next week, let you know how everybody did in Martinsville. When we come back, we're going to finish up the show the same way we always do. We got our Hot or Not, our official Richmond County Athletes of the Week, and of course, love it or hate it. Be right back.
At Richmond Community College, we prepare you for a high-skill, high-paying career in a variety of fields. From business to education, engineering, utilities, healthcare, criminal justice, information technology, and human services. At Richmond Community College, we can save you thousands of dollars on tuition through our university transfer programs that provide a seamless transition to universities and colleges throughout North Carolina. At Richmond Community College, we are always developing new courses and programs in response to the communities we serve. We offer day, evening, and online courses, and you can now complete 5 curriculum programs entirely online. At Richmond Community College, we believe in helping you prepare for a better life. Richmond Community College. Local college, big impact.
And welcome back to the final segment here on the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Let's start with our first segment here in the final segment, Hot or Not, presented by HCI Fire and Water Restoration. Who you got this week? Who's hot, Russell?
My hot is Haley Miller from the Lady Raider golf team. She scored a hole-in-one on number 8 on Pinehurst number 4, I think it was. 4? Yeah. And five. Number 5. And that's still, regardless, that's still a difficult thing to do.
They're all tough out there.
You know, and what is it? Like, it was a par 3, obviously, but I think it was like 166 yards out. And, you know, regardless, a hole-in-one is hard to do no matter where you are.
A hole-in-one's tough putt-putting.
Yeah.
Much less driving a par 3. So that's obviously big. Who you got for your knot this week?
My knot is East Carolina Pirates football team. They have lost the last 4 out of 5 games. I can't remember who they even beat since after UNC, but you know.
Okay, yeah.
They have beaten somebody since. I think it was Old Dominion actually, but by 2 points. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Who you got for your hot this week?
All right, for my hot, me and y'all know Drew Brees had broken so many records in the past few weeks, and by him beating the Baltimore Ravens, he is the 3rd quarterback in NFL history to beat all 32 teams.
Sweet.
Yeah, and the night, let's be real. Me and y'all saw the Lakers in the Houston Rockets game where pretty much CP3, Brandon Ingram, and Ray John Rondo lose their temper pretty much, and whatever that reason was, they got y'all suspended and a whole bunch of fines, and y'all lost money.
Yep. Stupid stuff.
Yeah.
For my hot this week, I went basketball as well. I actually got a couple of teams. The Toronto Raptors, who have started out, haven't lost a game yet. That we expected. On the western side, the Denver Nuggets also have yet to lose a game.
What?
That one not so much expected.
Denver don't go. What?
Now, of course, we're just a handful of games into the season, but nonetheless, they have yet to lose a game. On the not side, LA Lakers, LeBron goes there. They haven't won a game yet.
No.
But guess who else hasn't won a game? The Cleveland Cavaliers. So, so that's my hot, that's my not, brought to you by HCI Fire and Water Restoration. So let's move on and announce this week's official Richmond County Athletes of the Week. On the female side, we've got Candace Little, a senior who is on the cheerleading team. And anybody that thinks that cheerleading is not a sport, you are wrong, because try to go out there and do some of the stuff that they do. You have to be an absolute athlete in order to do that stuff. If they put me in charge of lifting someone up and catching them, they would have a broken neck. So congratulations to her. Of course, Nolan Allen on the male side, another senior. He's on the Richmond Senior High School soccer team. He also plays baseball. I've gotten to see Nolan play baseball quite a few times. another superb athlete. Of course, both of these very smart kids as well, push themselves not only athletically but academically to boot. So, of course, congratulations to Candace Little and Nolan Allen, our official Richmond County Athletes of the Week. And then finally, guys, let's finish it up the same way we always do.
Love it or hate it.
Love it or hate it. The next book's getting closed here. So, Ravens' Eric Weedle calls the Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton a fast dinosaur. Love it or hate it.
I love it because, it's funny to me.
Right?
I love it. You know what Cam Newton should do? He should go out, because we're getting around Halloween, he should get one of them dinosaur suits for the next game.
The T-Rex?
Yeah.
He should come to practice in one of or do a post-game conference.
Yeah.
Because he already wears crazy enough outfits. What would be,
Yeah.
to me, that'd just be in line for him to wear that, or do it for Halloween. But yeah, I think this is funny. I love it. I'm not even sure exactly what a fast dinosaur is. What is that, a velociraptor? That seems like
pterodactyl one.
That seems like a compliment to me. So, moving forward, Kemba Walker reaches 10,000 career points in the NBA. Love it or hate it?
Love it.
Love it.
Absolutely love it. Kemba, especially right here in Charlotte, didn't realize he had hit 10,000. That's a lot of points. I didn't realize he'd been around that long. But,
He's on his way to a Hall of Fame career.
Absolutely is. He just needs a championship ring at this point. Come on, Jordan. Get him some players, or you're going to lose him when free agency rolls around next year. Moving on, the Arizona Cardinals fired their offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy, and promoted, you may remember, former quarterback Byron Leftwich. Love it or hate it?
I'm going to say love it because if the offense ain't clicking, then you need to let who's running the offense kick the door out. Let the door out.
All right.
I love it.
I'm going to say love it too. Just like we were talking about when I think it was Oklahoma, the Sooners last week fired their defensive coordinator. Look, if you're giving up points at a record scale, then you got to get rid of your coordinator. Same thing on the offensive side. If you're not scoring enough points, something's not right. Switch it up. Byron Leftwich wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he was a really good quarterback back in the day for the Jaguars.
Oh, yeah.
And was kind of the heir apparent to Mark Brunell back in the day.
Sure was.
Won quite a few games. So I would think, I didn't even realize he was coaching. But,
I didn't either.
But I think he could have a good career. Of course, the Cardinals right now, one of the worst teams in the league. I think they've got some moves to make. Josh Rosen, of course, the rookie there, took over for Sam Bradford. Could have told you that. Bradford, he's,
He done.
Yeah, he's been done. Moving forward, the G League, of course, used to be the D League for the NBA, but Gatorade bought it. It's now the G League, is going to offer $125,000 to elite prospects as an alternative to college one-and-done route. Love it or hate it?
I'm going to say love it. Chance to prove yourself.
You could go either way on this one. I'm probably going to say hate it just because that kind of takes away from having more college players stay in the college level.
I agree with you there. I don't like it, but at the same time, if you're an elite prospect and you're in high school and you know that you're going to get drafted, what is the incentive to go to college for a year and then go to the NBA when you can go and get paid $125K and then go to the NBA? To me, that's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, like the G League. I always thought the G League was more like the practice squad, like the NFL.
Well, it is to an extent, but they're trying to elevate it to like a minor league almost.
Yeah, like a baseball.
Yeah, kind of like baseball.
And
you're going to pay them. So
another positive that you can actually get your autographs out to people because universities are not allowed to do that.
You can sell your image because at that point you're actually technically property of the NBA already.
Yeah.
So I think if you're good enough, if you're an elite prospect, I'm going to tell them just like I would anybody else. Go make that money while you still can. $125,000 compared to the millions that you make in the NBA is not much, but compared to the zero that you make at college is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So Michigan State, talking about a lot of money, got fined $10,000 after that incident with Michigan this past weekend during their game. If you aren't familiar, there was a moment before the game started where Michigan State has this thing they do where all their players come out and they line the entire field and they walk the field. Well, Michigan players were still out there and didn't get off the field. So some reason there was some kind of tuffle. Harbaugh and D'Antoni got into it. Devin Bush, who is probably going to go to the NFL next year, their linebacker from Michigan, ended up going to the center where Michigan State's logo was and started kicking the logo like a horse, really. And somehow Michigan State gets fined out of all this. Love it or hate it?
I'm going to say hate it for the fact that Michigan State got fined for that. I don't understand that. I'm going to say love it, though, for the fact that Michigan just kind of throwing it out there as a rivalry game. You got to love it. And, the turf is fine.
Yeah, I kind of, it's like a love it or hate it thing because hate it for the one that get fined for what?
Yeah.
And then the Devin Bush situation, kicking it like a horse. I think that was kind of funny.
Look, Michigan, a while back, I can't remember who it was, a player had said that Michigan State was like their little brother. And then Michigan State went ahead and beat them 4 or 5 times in a row when Michigan was down. Now Michigan seems like they're starting to become the dominant of the two programs. And one of their players, one of their linebackers said, made a mention about the little brother thing. So there's already some bad blood there. I think this is good for football, personally.
Yes.
Yeah. The Devin Bush thing, he probably shouldn't have gone out there and kicked around on their logo. But Baker Mayfield did something very similar just last year at Ohio State when he planted the Oklahoma flag, and nobody got fined there either. So I don't understand what the difference is.
Yeah.
Final one here. Roman Reigns unfortunately revealed on Monday Night Raw that he's been battling leukemia for 11 years, and it's made a comeback. So obviously this is probably going to be hated, right?
No, it's gonna be
hate that it's leukemia. Obviously,
yeah, it's gonna be a love or hated thing because I'm gonna say the hate part of it because we don't. It's like we don't know what our body's gonna do day in day out when I have you, but because for the simple fact because he has diagnosed with leukemia in his back, he pretty much had to relinquish his Universal Championship would not have you, and the loving part about IC because of the fans, even his co-workers, former, rivals and everything, give him hugs, give him encouraging words, prayers, and his thoughts and stuff. And I think that was very cool.
Yep.
I'm going to say hate it because this guy, as many people hate this guy as far as being on camera and being in the front and center for WWE, this is a guy who's not going to be able to continue on for a little while at least, not being able to do what he loves, and that's wrestling and entertainment. So I'm going to say hate it so much for that. And I think even Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar are going for the title now at Crown Jewel or whatever it's called. And I actually hate that even more because Brock Lesnar should be nowhere near this title at this point.
No, he shouldn't. I'm absolutely with you guys. We sat here for what felt like 6 months and talked about how they need to take this belt off of Brock. And we thought WrestleMania, they were going to do it. They didn't. That Greatest Royal Rumble, we thought they were going to do it, and they didn't. And they finally put it on Roman. And at that point, it was like, you know what? You might not be the biggest Roman fan, but at least he was going to be there week after week after week. He was going to represent the title. He was going to represent the company. So I really hate to see something like this happen. I don't know. There couldn't have only been a handful of people that knew about this because I'm feeling like even WWE maybe got, not fooled, but got taken by surprise with this. So obviously, I hate the fact that he finds out that his leukemia is back. I feel like, though, Roman Reigns is about as in good of shape as a person can be. I think if anybody can beat this again, it's going to be him. I don't think this is the last time we see him in a WWE ring, even as a performer, much less just as a personality.
Or an ambassador type.
Yeah, just because you can't wrestle doesn't mean you can't show up. But I don't think this is the last time we see him wrestle. I think he'll make a comeback. And it is cool to see everybody backstage, guys that in front of the camera they're rivals with, but then backstage they're all a big family. They're all, for the most part, friends. And of course, you'd be just a complete jerk to wish someone be happy that they have leukemia. So, all around, I just hate it for him. I hate that he has to give up the title. I'm with you. I hate that now Brock Lesnar's back in the mix for it.
I will say this, though, about this happening. It does make the impact bigger on Dean Ambrose's heel turn.
It does. It does. I would imagine Dean's probably going to be in the Universal Championship picture here.
Oh, very soon, yeah.
Let me throw a name out to you guys, not to turn this into the wrestling show, but y'all know how we do here.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time left.
Yeah.
Where is Finn Balor? Because the man introduced the Universal Championship, got hurt, and has not been near the picture since then. But I feel like he is a candidate that should be around the title picture,
He's been injured. He's been injured.
Yeah, but he's been around. He brought the Demon back out for SummerSlam, and
he
just wasted it,
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
I don't understand why they never gave him another shot,
Yeah, and he's been in, title pictures, number one contender matches, but he's never actually had a chance for the title, I don't think, since Elimination Chamber. So he hasn't had a proper one-on-one rematch, so he's supposed to have through a contract, but you know how that goes with...
Even with Roman Reigns, when he comes back from his leukemia remission again, he's entitled to that.
Yeah, he's going to get that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my point, though. You know that if Roman can come back, if he does, they're going to plop him right back into that title picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
All I don't understand is why they didn't do the same for Finn Balor.
Because I think what it is, it's a difference where they're going to push this one person and they're going to put this person on the shelf.
Yeah, and I get that. And if Balor's hurt, then fine, he's hurt. But he's been back healthy now for at least 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. He's been back since that play. He came back after that year of being out, and he was completely out of the picture.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand. Of course,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
I like I said, I like to see Braun Strowman win the Universal Championship.
I think they need to put Finn Balor on SmackDown, let him and AJ Styles go at it for a little while. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Or Samoa Joe, when Samoa Joe gets the title, I'm assuming he will soon. So
One other quick thing before we go: Rey Mysterio came back on SmackDown
Yeah, he
this
did.
week. Do you think? And then of course at this Crown Jewel thing or whatever it is, you got HBK and Triple H fighting Kane and Taker, and you got Kurt Angle coming back. You got Trish and Lita. I feel like I ask this all the time. We're not even into WrestleMania season, but isn't WWE putting a lot of faith in a lot of older folks instead of, like we talked about, trying to build some of these younger guys up, especially now that Roman's out? Now they're going to lean even more heavier on a lot of these older folks.
yeah, it certainly shows to me that they don't have a lot of confidence in their current talent, and I don't think it's their fault. I mean,
It's not
these
the talent's
guys.
fault.
I think it's the fact that
it's the corporation as a whole.
being in this what they call the PG era, they can't really allow. They're not really allowing the current talent to really be themselves. They're a lot more stricter to a script nowadays than they did back during the Attitude Era and such, and Ruthless Aggression era. I mean, they had more freedom back then than they do now.
Yeah, and I get that, but that doesn't mean that. But I mean, even the people from the Attitude Era are the ones they're leaning on, though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense to me. You could always. I think it's more on creative than it is
Yeah.
anything else.
Because like even when there was discrepancies a little bit with Trish and Lita coming back, and I'm looking at a scenario where they come back, they might fight Mickie James and
Alexa Bliss.
Alexa Bliss in a tag team title match, in a tag team match. And then it might be our Trish and them, they might set to be competitive for the women's championship. Just give it a run for one more time.
And I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I just, you've got so much talent.
Well-
You've had all these people come up from NXT, and I think it's a combination. It's up to creative and WWE to give them a character, and then it's up to the person themselves to take that character or whatever it is and run with it. Now, obviously, you're not. I mean,
But they don't have that freedom when they get to the main roster because the creative has their own ideas for how this is going to go. They're not allowed to go out there and say what they want to on promo. They're not allowed to go out there and pretty much determine how the match is going to end.
And I get it that it needs to be more kid friendly than when you and I watched it, but that doesn't mean that you can't have superstars come out of the. You should still be able to establish at least a handful of people.
Yeah.
Like to me, I think Alexa Bliss is an absolute superstar.
Her, AJ Styles, I think those two are probably the biggest ones. Braun Strowman has made himself a lot recently. I can't really think of anybody else off the top of my head, but it goes to show. I mean, I guess that these guys aren't really.
But like I'm looking at I don't have it in front of me, but I'm in my mind I'm looking at the card for this Crown Jewel thing, and it's like at least half of them are already in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's different for wrestling than it is for other sports because you can come out of retirement whenever you want to.
And Shawn
Michaels,
with a bald head.
Yeah, which is weird.
I think also a lot has to do with the fact that they're going to this Crown Jewel thing, which is not really a typical pay-per-view. It's kind of
that's an inaugural type thing.
It's pretty much just kind of a one-off thing. Well, now it's two-off things, and they're going back there again. But Evolution is kind of being pushed as well, and that's the all women's pay-per-view with Trish and Lita. I think they kind of did that because it's an all women's thing.
It is,
but
and I get that too.
Yeah.
But I also want to say kudos to WWE for finally giving the women their own opportunity for a pay-per-view. I mean, if you ask me, it may be as good, if not better, than Crown Jewel.
The women's wrestling has certainly gotten a lot better in the past 10 years.
Yeah, you have to say that. Whether they're more restricted now or not as far as what they can say, women's wrestling today is 100 times better than it was during the Attitude Era because it's not bra and panties matches and wrestling and pudding. It's actually women competing, main eventing stuff, going in Hell in a Cells and elimination chambers. I mean, they're finally letting the women be on the same level with men. I think that's great. So
Yeah.
All right, that's enough wrestling talk, guys. Let's end the show. Of course, we appreciate everybody out there watching and listening to the RO Sports Show across all of the Richmond Observer's platforms. There's too many to name. And of course, guys, what is it?
All free.
It's all free, so no money needed. So I am Matt Harrelson. Alongside with me tonight, Jeremy McKenzie, Russell Parker. We appreciate Dion Cranford for joining us early. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you right back here next week, 5:30.